Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and today I have some simple heat embossed sympathy cards. Sympathy cards are one of those things that you never really want to make when you need them, so I usually try and make sure I have some on hand, and I needed to build up my stash a little bit. So I pulled out the beautiful Unity set called Beautiful Life, Blessed Memories. It's a perfect set for sympathy cards. There's some really great sentiments in this beautiful heart image. I've already lined it up in my MISTI, and I have a panel of vellum I'm going to use. I love heat embossing on vellum. It gives such a soft, pretty look. I stamped it 2 times with watermark embossing ink, and I'm going to heat emboss that heart image with gold embossing powder. You really don't have to stamp it twice. It's just kind of a habit I've gotten into with having the MISTI, knowing that I can do that. And you don't have to push down very hard with the MISTI. I just gently do it 2 times. That way I really make sure if there's any little spot on a detail image like this that doesn't get inked up, then I know it all does. Now I'm going to heat set this with my heat gun. You notice I preheated a little bit and kind of felt it on my hand to make sure it was hot. That's a great way to help keep your vellum from warping too much when you heat emboss it. I don't know if you ever have that problem, but when you heat emboss, once you've got your powder in there, make sure your gun's nice and hot before you aim it on. And then only hit it with the heat just as long as you need to melt that embossing powder. Watch it really close. It doesn't take very long if you've got a good quality heat gun that heats up well. So I went ahead and did that, and now I'm adding my stamped sentiment along the bottom. And for the sentiment, I'm going to heat emboss it with white embossing powder. It's just a little bit of contrast and difference in the colors, and both of them will pop up and show really well over some pattern paper that I'm going to lay them over once I'm done heat embossing this. Use the same, my heat gun was already fairly warm because I just used it, but I still tested it to make sure it was hot. And notice how my vellum, it really hasn't warped that much and it stayed nice and flat. You also want to use a fairly heavy duty, high quality vellum. If it's too lightweight, it really will warp and bend no matter what you do. Now I decided I wanted to add a little torn edge on the bottom of that just for some texture. And then I trimmed a little more off the top. And then I went to my sewing machine and just ran a line of machine stitching across the top to attach that vellum. Here's another one I did the same way with the machine stitching. And then if you don't have a sewing machine, you can punch a couple holes and thread some ribbon. This is some of the ribbon that Unity sells. And that works really well to hold it in place as well if you don't want adhesive behind there that's going to show. And you want to keep it hidden and looking smooth. There's a closer look at each one of those. Nice and simple, just as a sympathy card should be. And the sentiments show up better in real life than they do in the photos. It was hard to get the contrast right. But thanks so much for coming by. Have a wonderful day.